patience. We thank you for hanging in there. Hopefully, more and more people who are ready to join us at 6 o'clock will soon be joining us. Above all, on behalf of the Hope and Healing Ministry of the Diocese and all these great people that I'm blessed to work with this evening, we give thanks for you. We thank you for joining us this evening. We thank you for listening to us. We thank you for letting us be a part of your life and hopefully a part of your hope and your healing. We are truly blessed this evening, and we want to be blessed with you going forward. This evening is kind of an invitation. An invitation if you allow us to journey with you. Thought we'd start with the gospel that'll actually be the gospel for this weekend. From the gospel according to Mark. As Jesus was leaving Jericho with his disciples and a sizable crowd, Bartimaeus, a blind man, the son of Timaeus, sat by the roadside begging. On hearing that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, "Jesus, son of David, have pity on me." And many rebuked him, telling him to be silent. But he kept on calling out all the more, "Son of David, have pity on me." Jesus stopped and said, "Call him." So they called the blind man, saying to him, "Take courage, get up. Jesus is calling you." He threw aside his cloak, sprang up, and came to Jesus. Jesus said in reply, "What do you want me to do for you?" The blind man replied to him, "Master, I want to see." Jesus told him, "Go your way, your faith has saved you." Immediately he received his sight and followed on the way. I chose this gospel because so many people have been abused, have not been heard, have been told to go away. But we have every confidence that Jesus always hears that voice, always calls those people. And then Jesus does something beautiful, as he does in so many gospel readings of healing. He says, "What do you want me to do for you?" He does not presume the blind man is asking for sight. He first asks, "What do you want me to do for you?" As followers of Jesus, that's all we humbly ask. How can we help? How can we serve? How can we be a part of your journey? So with that in mind, let us pray. Jesus, I know that you are always with me. You see me when I feel unseen. You hear me when I feel unheard. You love me when I feel unloved. Lord, take the hurts that I have known and the pain that I have felt, so they may be joined to the suffering you endured. Lord, I will do more than offer it up. I will seek the healing, the hope, and the justice promised your faithful ones. In this, I trust in you. Amen. Now, please introduce Frederick Jones, our victim assistant foreman.
Hi, good evening everybody. Thank you again for your patience as we work through our technical issues. My name is Frederick Jones. I'm the Victim Assistance Coordinator with the Diocese of Albany. I'm a licensed mental health counselor in the community as well. My role here today is really just to introduce myself and give you a little bit of information on how I can be helpful. My role really within the diocese is to be able to help anybody coming forward with a complaint of sexual abuse, to help them through the process. If they want to file a formal complaint, or if they need support, any kind of assistance. My role is also to be able to help those that need resources in the community. So if you're looking for a support group, if you're looking for a therapist to work with, if you're looking for any mental health services, my role is really to help as best as I can to connect you. A little bit about the process with the independent review board. There's an independent review board through the diocese that meets about once a month, and their role is really to review any of the complaints that come forward of sexual abuse. Just to give you a little bit of an idea, a little bit of walkthrough, if you are interested in filing a complaint through the Diocese of Sexual Abuse, you can contact me. My information is on the website. You can either contact me through email, assistance.coordinator@rcda.org, or you can give me a call, and I'll definitely give you a call back within 24 hours. Really, if you really wanted to move forward with a complaint, there's a form that needs to be completed, and I would review that all with you. And then once that's completed, then the policy is to be able to forward that to the district attorney. They have to review it before they release it, before they release it back to the diocese independent review board. The review board reviews all the complaints, and they determine whether or not an investigation is warranted, an investigation in which the victim survivor would be interviewed, along with any witnesses, records reviewed, those kind of things. And then at the end of that, they would make a determination. The independent review board is like a consultation board for the bishop. The bishop is the one, Bishop Edward Scharfenberg, that makes the final decision on whether or not the complaint coming forward has been thoroughly investigated, and if there's any other information that needs to be reviewed or investigated. The bishop is very open, and I report directly to him. He's very open to anybody who needs additional support, meeting on Zoom or if possible in person in the future. But he's willing to sit and talk and to hear anybody's struggle, whether or not you have filed a complaint or whether or not you just need some additional assistance. And as I mentioned before, I am available whether or not you choose to file a complaint, if you have any questions about the process, even if you have any questions about anybody who's been placed on the list and you need some more information or whatever the case is. My role is really to the victim survivors, to be able to help in whatever way I can. So I encourage you, everybody out there watching, if this is something that you feel like you need some additional support on, feel free to reach out to me. I know we're a little behind schedule, but I will be on the Zoom link that's right on the diocese page afterwards if you do need to talk or you do have any questions for me, anything like that. If you want to schedule another time to meet over Zoom, that's really what I'm available for tonight. So I'll be available, I'll be on at 7 and I'll be available until about 8 o'clock. So if you do want to chat, I'm available to do that. And I'd love to hear from you, any questions and concerns that you have. So that's really what my role is here, is to introduce myself. And the next presenter here is Deacon Gary Riggy, so I'll bring him up next.
Thank you, Frederick and Father Bob. My name is Deacon Gary Riggy. I'm with the Albany Diocese. I'm on the assigned at Our Lady of the Valley Parish in Middleburg. Also spiritual director of the Joshua Foundation here in Altamont, and I'm director of engagement at the City Mission in Schenectady. I apologize for all the suffering that you've gone through and are going through. And one of the things I'd like to talk to you tonight about is my role as a spiritual director, spiritual companion, and spiritual counselor. And that is an invitation for us to be able to work on the spiritual side of ourselves. We're both human, so we live in the world and we have all these worldly things to take care of. And we have counselors who are able to help us with a lot of the past trauma. But there's even a deeper experience that we need to gently walk in, and it's an invitation. It's never forced. It's a coming together and allowing God to work between us, allowing the Spirit to work. Truly believe wherever two or more are gathered in my name, there am I in the midst of them. And what greater time and what greater need do we have for Jesus in this experience, so that we can walk and we can all be healed by this, because I know I too am hurting, because you are hurting, and I know all those that work with me are hurting, and it's an awful thing for us to have to go through. This is a terrible experience for all of us, and there's no better place than to turn to God for healing, because that's who our God is. He's a healer. And part of the journey is a discernment of, whose voice am I hearing beneath my best self? Is it the voice that's coming from the world? Is it the voice of hatred? Is it the voice of vengeance? Or is it the voice of love, compassion, mercy, and forgiveness? And how can we process all those emotions together? Because we have every right to feel every emotion that comes forward. But how do we take what we're feeling and offer it up to God and walk in a way that it can bring about healing, and we can come to understand where some of those emotions are coming from? It's a very gentle and slow process, but one that will bring healing and build bridges between us and the church, and bring God's light back to where it needs to be, shining in our hearts for others to see, so that we can bring healing to the world. There was an author of a book called Praying Even When the Door Seems Closed, even when we think that prayer can't work. And I want to share this one quote with you that the author uses. He says, Jesus' prayer flows from his life. His prayer was historically, and is for us in the gospel, entirely oriented toward the encounter of his real and living humanity with the love of God. He lived and prayed, searching to fulfill God's will. And thus, his prayer often consisted in lifting his life up into the mystery of God, and in trying to discern God's action in his life. And this is the journey I invite us to be able to begin to take. There's contact information on your handout as to how to get in touch with me. And I will also be available on Zoom at 7 p.m. should anybody wish to talk with me further. I welcome and invite you to that space. I'm going to read a letter now from a friend of mine, Teresa Pickgreen. She started Spirit Fire, and she too was abused. And she couldn't be here tonight, so I'm going to read this letter. I offer my words to you tonight as a gift drawn from my own sufferings as a victim of clergy abuse. This gift is offered to anyone who has joined you here, for those who care about us also suffer by one degree of separation. Welcome. I apologize for not being with you in person. My dear friend Gary has agreed to read this gift to you on my behalf. I am midway through a move, so I am not able to drive up to join you, but I do join you in spirit. During the time you are together, I am home and in prayer with a candle lit for your gathering. It is a strange and complicated path that has led us to this gathering tonight. It is a horrific experience that brings us together here. We did not choose this path. We did not choose to become victims. We are innocent of the evil inflicted upon us. Nevertheless, we carry a burden, a grief, a distinct set of wounds which we must tend if we are to heal from the past. The decision to heal and how to heal is ours to make. How do we choose a healthy, healing path, a path into hope? There are so many very good reasons not to hope. In innocence, we offered our trust only to be betrayed. Our abuser's authority was meant to protect us, but instead was used to manipulate us. They were supposed to be caregivers, spiritual leaders, even parental figures. They were supposed to be safe. Besides the abusers, there were those who enabled the abuse. We recover as we heal from these betrayals one at a time. The process can feel daunting and impossible. It is daunting, but it is impossible only if we try to do it on our own. We all face that difficult step, and we face it multiple times, and we don't always get it right. But it remains for us all how to trust anyone again to help. Where do we find a sure thing? We need people who appreciate the scope of our wounds. No one person is sufficient, but a team of people, or a patchwork of caring people, can create a safe covering we all need to heal. There is much within that needs to heal, and much about our lives to heal as well. I don't think I need to tell you this. We all understand this. We have lived it. Abuse affects the full person on every level. The wound of our abuse is not just physical, but also psychological, emotional, and spiritual. The abuse happened in the past, but all the hurt is still here today. Here is the real scope of its evil. It is here too where we see hope, for our wounded spiritual life has direct access to God. This patchwork of professionals and trusted others is important to uplift us, but I have found it is not enough. In fact, it is compromised of humans, all of whom are fallible and prone to falling short from time to time. Where do we find, besides a healthy patchwork of support, some kind of rock that will never fail us? There is an invitation right now for you, regardless of how you may or may not be able to find peace with the church. Right now, God's Spirit seeks to dwell in us. His Spirit gives new life, and His Son has already won the battle in some mysterious way over the evil that has harmed us so gravely. A wellspring of victory is available right now in our lives. We just need to let the longing in our hearts turn the smallest bit toward God. He does the rest. To the degree the church is safe for you, the church is rich with ways to access grace and anticipate in a holy life on earth. Just remember that. While God is perfect and constant in our lives, the church is human and messy. When I was first grappling with the effects of abuse on my life, I was lost. I was working all sorts of hours in Manhattan and had left the church, certain I would never return. One night a blizzard turned the city upside down during the evening commute. My train was running very late, and I wanted to avoid the mobs in the rail station. So I took refuge in a nearby church. There was a mass going on in the main church, so I followed signs to a basement shrine and took a seat in a pew where it was warm. I looked around to see New York commuters praying in a peaceful quiet. There were just as many homeless people sleeping on pews in the back, where I too took a seat. Soon the crowd grew and Mass started, and I continued to hide in the back near a pillar, staying warm. The homeless people wailed as the faithful closer to the altar responded to prayers. The priest seemed unaffected by the noise. It struck me that this is how prayer must sound to God. And yet I felt strangely like I was where I belonged, homeless, grieving, without words from a deep sadness. The sermon that night was simple. There are 3 questions that comprise the human quest. Where did we come from? Who are we? Where are we going? I recognize in these questions many conversations I was having with my therapist. Nothing we had devised had clicked. Yet here the priest answered the question so simply and so clearly. We come from God. We are children of God. We will return to God. A clarity hit me that night. I wish such clarity for you too. The abuse and its evil have complicated these questions with lies such as doubt about our worth. Such things are not from God. We are from God. We are His. He delights in us. This is an identity I could claim, and I did claim that night. It has been how I have navigated all the challenges of recovery. To find our true self in the eyes of a loving God is radical, but it is the truth about who we are. Here in this loving reflection, we can find the strength to forge through the difficulties of healing and to find in our healing inspiration and hope for others. To find our true self in the eyes of a loving God is the opposite of all the lies we learn about abuse. For example, abuse teaches us shame, but God offers us beauty. From abuse, we carry guilt for something we did not do. With Jesus, we have someone who carries the worst of it, all for us, and the rest of all the suffering with us. Abuse taught us to hide our faces. God created our faces with beauty and flaws, and he takes delight in what he sees. Abuse creates nothing good, only pain, only scars. We, however, are created by God. We are made to flourish in his love. He is beside us as we walk through life, home to him. This wonderful truth can be hard to believe. It can be hard to square with the evil and suffering that have befallen us. I found it astonishing to hear and believe on that winter night in New York City, and I find it astonishing even now. After all the lies of abuse, knowing it is safe to believe such a claim is hard and is also prudent. The answers to these questions of identity were hard to find in therapy alone. Searching for truth, it felt like so many lives had used up all the words with any meaning or hope for me. I could find only one word that is never a lie. That word has proven strong enough to support my recovery and my new life. That word, spelled with a capital W, is God, reaching out for me. The word is Jesus himself, here to save me, to help me, to walk with me. I tell you this not as a child's religious maxim. This is blood, sweat, and tears of recovering from abuse. The Word died for me to set me free from all the evil in this world, both my own sins and the sins of others whose burden I bear. Jesus is with me every step of every day, and I live my recovery from abuse every day, tending to my anxieties and caring for my sensitivities. I am doing for myself what he would have me do for anyone suffering, including myself. His love for me teaches me how to love myself. God's love for me overrides all the dark and hateful realities I experienced in abuse. I became very angry early in therapy when I realized that I could not go to 30 sessions and just fix this pain. I would need to go through the process you already know. It was very hard to believe I would ever feel better at certain points, although I assure you, if you are at one of these despairing moments, things do get better if you can keep going. If you keep going, you will come to the place Jesus shows us. He was and remains the perfect victim. He struggled through the suffering, and he died as our old lives and our potential lives have died. What is important to see is that when he rose, his wounds remained visible. They were transformed, however, with God's miracle of new life. This is for us a promise for our recovery, and is an invitation for us to become with Jesus healers in our own spheres, drawing on our own suffering, never denying it is there, but giving it in service to others and to God with a testimony of thanksgiving for God's healing spirit. If you want to know or learn more, we can provide the websites with free articles and other information. God bless you all, and be not afraid. Sincerely, Teresa Pick Green, Spirit Fire Ministries. Thank you. I now welcome Anne-Marie Carswell.
Good evening. My name is Anne-Marie Carswell, and I'm the process coordinator for the Diocesan Independent Review Board and the assistance coordinator, but just recently I became the associate director of the Safe Environment Office for the diocese. And we thought that it was important that you meet Frederick and Deacon Gary and know what the diocese has to offer you. And they focus on the healing and the reconciliation of the survivor of abuse. But we wanted you to know that the diocese is also working to prevent future abuse of our faithful and our young people. And that's the Safe Environment Office. The Safe Environment works to protect the children and young people from future abuse in a number of ways. The first, it administers safe environment awareness training for all diocesan employees, parish staff, and volunteers who work with children. And this is an online resource called CMG Connects. It also provides background screening for the same diocesan staff, parish staff, as well as volunteers. Anyone who works with children or who are around children in any sort of capacity, volunteer or working. And this is using TrueView, does our background checks. Along with the Office of Lay Ministry, Safe Environment also provides oversight and resources for age-appropriate training for children in parish, faith formation, and youth ministry programs. And the program that we are using now is called Circles of Grace. The Safe Environment Office gathers and maintains records and prepares documentation for an annual audit that is done required by the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, or the USCCB. So we work to put those numbers together. The office also guides parishes in their responsibilities to create and maintain safe environments for children. This is, we make sure that parishes understand what needs to be a safe environment. So there are never adults alone with a child. There's never, there's secure buildings. So we make sure that everything that they do is safe for our children. The Safe Environment Office is typically the first point of contact in the diocese when there's an issue with a parish or a school involving a parish or school employee or volunteer who may be accused or suspected of a boundary violation involving a youth of the diocese. And our Safe Environment Office is overseen by our director, Joyce Tarantino, and is staffed by the associate director, me, and our administrative assistant, Pam Dance. So if you have any questions about Safe Environment or you want to reach out to us, you can email me at Marie, M-A-R-I-E, .carswell, C-A-R-S-W-E-L-L, at rcda.org, or you can call 518-453-6635. And I would like to welcome Frederick back up.
All right, hello again. We're going to be closing in just a couple minutes, but just a reminder that if anybody's out there and they need some any additional support or have any questions or would like to speak to any of us individually, there's a link right on the diocese website that you're live streaming from that's going to connect to Zoom. So we'll be on Zoom, and we look forward to talking to you a little bit further in a couple minutes. So.
Once again, we're honored that you've decided to join us tonight, or if you decided to look at this video at any time. Our resources are always available to you. On behalf of Bishop Scharkenberger, we are honored, once again, that you come to join us for this time of prayer. We invite you to join us on the journey, or better yet, have you invite us to be on your journey. And may God bless us all, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Go in peace.